I hate to say I told you so, but it feels so good to get to do it, doesn't it, guys?
It does.
So let's revisit here. Episode 69 of The Unusual Suspects. We put out this episode. You recognize that handsome devil right there?
Oh my god, I look so confused.
Well, you realize that episode 69 and this episode is 96.
Oh!
The inverse
Wow.
of 69.
Why, how the turntables. You see how it all comes together here? But you might recall our feature story. The reason we have Vinny holding a burning British flag, it's not because we were trying to protest the UK. It was because the UK at that point was gripped by far-right riots of people who were assaulting cops, throwing bricks through windows, burning vehicles in the streets, because they were rioting over what had happened with this case a few days earlier. I'll revisit the details. July 29th, 2024, in Southport, Merseyside, England, 3 children were killed and 10 other people, 8 of whom were also children, were injured outside of a dance studio that was hosting a Taylor Swift-themed yoga and dance workshop. 2 girls died at the scene, 6 children were injured, and 2 adults were taken to the hospital in critical condition. The 3rd girl died a few days later. Do we have the picture of the guy and the victims as well? I believe those are in there somewhere. Yes.
There they go. Okay, so that's
here are the.
Put these up. Put these up.
I want to
These are
highlight them
people-
first because it's.
So sad.
Yeah.
These
rest
are
them.
all children under the age of 10.
Oh, that really.
The perpetrator was a 17-year-old guy named Axel Rudakubana. He is the son of.
This is him.
Yes, this is him. This is the picture they circulated.
Oh, that's
that is
that's a
obviously
nice
not.
picture of
That
him.
is obviously not a 17-year-old.
Yeah, he looks like he's at
Yeah.
Hogwarts.
That is
He
a
look-
little kid.
He looks like he's at a Harry Potter movie. Like he's one of the good guys.
You appreciate that this is this analogous to them circulating the Michael Jackson picture of the
Yes.
subway guy when compared to what he actually.
Exactly. Or, when they were throwing around Trayvon Martin's 8th grade graduation photo or, Michael Brown's high school picture. Like, that's not who they were. That's not how they presented themselves. But whatever. That was the guy, Axel Rudakubana. And what they said was, he's the British-born son of 2 Rwandan immigrants. But the misinformation that incited this far-right riot was that, he was a Muslim boat migrant. Because, why would a British person ever assume that a Muslim boat migrant would stab children in the street? That's certainly never happened.
Weird. That's very
6
odd.
times a week
Yeah.
for the past few years. But this is some footage and images of what happened. Because I want to get this in perspective here. If we can roll that video.
This is them because they're pissed off.
Yeah.
I think they were. Oh, is this outside one of the migrant centers?
Yeah,
Is that-
yeah.
These are the people fed up, Connor, that the people that they're letting in into the country, flooding the country, are stabbing and murdering little girls at freaking Taylor Swift dance.
Not all of them. It's just a handful every now and again, like that the reporter.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a handful
handful.
of apartment buildings
Yeah,
taken over by gang members from
Yeah, from
illegally entering the
Venezuela.
country.
We covered that, and we talked about the fact that even though the kid was from Rwanda, the outrage in the British public over the situation of third world migrants coming to the UK, committing acts of violence and receiving no consequences, while the liberal-leaning British government just let them in by the thousands. We talked about it. We said that that's a justified outrage, even if we don't agree with hitting a cop over the head with a brick and burning a vehicle in the street as part of your protest. What we got was this flood of comments, and I've gone through and pulled a selection for us, and I didn't censor the names and identities of people who called us idiots out of compassion for them, but more so we don't get blasted for doxing. Things like, why are you spreading fake news, bro? The dude was a Christian kid from Rwanda. It was the far-right thugs that were throwing acid and running people over. Stop blaming Muslims. You're naive. When it's a Muslim doing it, it's Islam and they are terrorists. But when it's a Christian, oh no, he's just a sick guy that needs help and he's not a true Christian. Do you hear yourselves and how much double standard you use? Yes, he is an effing Christian. A terrorist is a terrorist. The guy was a Rwandan Christian. You guys are pathetic. Any violence, you're wishing it was a Muslim. And more than that.
Connor,
I
I love that you put these out there.
Yeah.
Good for you. I
You
hope,
know,
I
I-
hope whoever you are, you're seeing your little profile pic and you know it's you.
This
Deli.
is the reminder that we are real people and we do read the comments. We appreciate the support we get down there, but if
You read the comments?
I read the comments, how else am I
Do you
supposed
read
to
the
know how to fight with
comments?
No.
All right.
No, once in a while, like to be honest with you, not so much here. Like once in a while, PBD podcast, but once in a while, like, especially with those episodes, I see that type of hate. I have to.
Oh, okay.
And this
Do
is
you, Rob?
this is why I monitor the comments.
I'm too sensitive. Sorry, guy. I appreciate that you're in there talking, and thank you for watching. But
Well, that's okay. I'm down there monitoring it for us, so we can know who to fight with when we absolutely prove ourselves correct.
Thank you, Connor.
Idiots. So
Just to highlight one thing, because it's people are going to say, "Oh, you got lucky," in the sense that you made a prediction. There's a reason why the people on the streets of the UK were rioting the way they were, because they have more information than others do who are not there.
Than
and who
Johnny
get it.
in Tampa.
And so, when I was talking with Tommy Robinson about this, he's like, they all know what's going on down there, despite the media censorship. And that's why it's like, you listen to the right people, you'll be right more often than not. Sorry, I just wanted to preface that. So you didn't get lucky, you listened to the right people.
We paid attention. We observed the trends, and more importantly, the truth doesn't really have to defend itself because it will come out eventually. Throw up this from the Associated Press. On Tuesday, Merseyside police confirmed that Rudakubana had been charged with production of a biological toxin, namely ricin, and for possessing a, quote, PDF file entitled Military Studies in the Jihad Against the Tyrants, the Al-Qaeda Training Manual.
Wait a minute, this Christian guy is
so
loving Al-Qaeda and wants to poison people?
Yeah, where that rumor came from, they never really confirmed that his family is a Christian family. It's just Rwanda has a large Christian population. So they assumed, oh, if he's from Rwanda, he's probably Christian, completely cutting out the fact that Islam has taken over Africa the same way it's taken over every other place it's ever walked into. Ricin is derived from the castor bean plant and is one of the world's deadliest toxins. It has no known vaccine or antidote and kills cells by preventing them from making proteins. These charges are on top of 3 charges of murder, 10 charges of attempted murder, and 1 charge of possession of a knife. He showed up in court on Wednesday for sentencing on those additional charges, and everyone was left asking the question, if they found the ricin and the Al-Qaeda training manuals in his house in July, why are we just finding out about it now? Because that was the other part of the riot, is that they were saying the government was covering up his identity. They said, oh, we can't name him or show his image because he's a minor, because he was like a couple weeks away from turning 18 at that point. So they were furious because the government would not identify the perpetrator. So now, once again, there are people in the UK who are furious over the fact that the government hid this information. And they said, no, he's a Christian kid.
Yeah.
He's from a Christian family. This was, and they are still saying this was not a terrorism-related incident.
Do we know, was he from a Christian family but converting ideologically?
No, nobody's
to
confirmed
Islam?
it.
Nobody's confirmed it.
I'm from a Christian family, and I certainly have no Al-Qaeda training manual saved on my computer.
Yeah, that, and by the way, this is the same type of nonsense that they do, rhetoric, when, the government is bringing all these people in to do what they're going to do, obviously, to make everybody rely on the government. Then they do this, they cover it up. Just like every single trans mass shooter, which we've had a lot of them in the United States, they do their thing, and we don't see a manifesto. We don't see anything for months. You know why? Because that throws away their whole transgender. They're all about love and peace and LGBTQ. No. They're mentally unstable people that have obviously issues, and I hope to God that they figure out what the hell's wrong with them. But no. Hide it until it comes out months later.
About this was at the same time when they were literally locking up Brits for mean Facebook posts besmirching immigrants, and Tommy Robinson was organizing peaceful protests, and they were trying to shut him down, and they were trying to shut everybody up. This is in the context where we played the video back in the day, this British judge wearing a white wig sentencing someone to, 30 months because of a mean anti-immigrant Facebook post.
Yeah, in Germany, right?
No, this was the UK.
England?
This was during the same time. So they're hiding this information while simultaneously censoring information online and locking people up for anti-immigrant social media posts.
Oh my God! And by the way, I was mistaken because you're right. Yours was England. Mine was in Germany, where I think 11 or 12, if I'm not mistaken, migrants raped this girl, and then when all the guys that did the raping came to court, guess who a lady went on WhatsApp or something and messaged one of the accused rapists and was like, "You're a mean person. You shouldn't do this." Guess what? She got arrested for for like verbally assaulting this guy online, bro. Your UK, Europe, all that, dude, they're all cooked. It's finished.
But I would say European countries similar to the U.S., they have a right to be protesting, upset because they're having an immigration problem as well.
Yeah.
It's all of these leaders of these countries. They're just infiltrating all these people who aren't assimilating, and then who gets the wrath of it? It's the people.
The people.
It's not the politicians. It's not the people of power. So like, just come in. Germany had this issue. The UK, England had this issue. We have this issue.
Italy's having some issues.
Yeah, it's a very common trend. Why? Because the people in power know the people of that country are no longer abiding by what they say, so they're just trying to bring in more people to maintain their power.
Yup, and destroy the freaking, destroy the country, and make everybody reliant on the government.
And I mean, they bring him in, terrible immigration policies, terrible social consequences, and then they try to censor misinformation and disinformation, and try to censor hate speech or criminalize hate speech. So I've been saying, like, no joke, you want to know what America would look like under a Kamala Harris, Tim Walz administration, where they talk about this, criminalizing hate speech. Look to the UK. You get a I don't know if he was legal or illegal, killing somebody, 3 people, and then they say you can't say anything bad about him on the internet. You're spreading disinformation, misinformation by suggesting it was terrorist related, and then they put people in jail. They shut down the protests, and then 4 months later they admit, lo and behold, it was. And after having suppressed it for 4 months, I mean, this is what the future would look like.
And that's the whole point. Is that when it came out, oh, he's actually son of Rwandan immigrants, but he was born in the UK. They're like, well, you can't call him immigrant. He's British. You saw that picture of him.
Yeah.
And few people are willing to put it quite so bluntly, but that guy's not British. That guy will never be British.
Yeah.
He was born on British soil, but he's not British because British means something more than just being within the magic dirt that somehow makes you British.
Yeah.
In the same way that every other country in the world outside of the West is allowed to have that standard. If my wife and I moved to China, and we live in China, we renounce our American citizenship, we might be Chinese citizens, but we're not Chinese.
Nope.
Our children who are born there will never be Chinese. Our grandchildren who are born there will never be Chinese. Until we have completely integrated with the dominant racial group of China, we will never be Chinese. But for some reason, it doesn't work the other way. That someone fresh off the boat from the third world can land in Europe or the United States, and suddenly, oh, welcome, weary traveler, you're as American as me. If my ancestors came over on the Mayflower and yours came over 30 seconds ago, congratulations. We're all the same thing. And nobody's allowed to draw those distinctions anymore. But it means something to be British. It means something to be American. And people who come from outside and won't assimilate into that are what is causing the problem.
I'll take it. Tommy, I mean, I'm going back to Tommy Robinson only because he's been locked up now for 18 months for contempt of court. The latest time was for repeating statements about the attack on the Syrian boy. You guys remember this?
Yeah.
And so he made a documentary called Silence, which showed the truth behind that. The truth, not, or at least the documented truth, that the innocent Syrian boy might not have been that innocent, and there might have been more to it than just an alleged racist waterboarding of a Syrian refugee. He's going to jail now, but he said, look, he has, when they call him an anti-Islamist or an anti-Muslim, he's got plenty of friends of diverse natures. He says, there is an ideology, there's a culture, there's a history to being part of America, to being part of the UK. And in as much as you're technically born on the soil, but ideologically, morally, spiritually, there's an incompatibility until there's a compatibility, and there might never be that compatibility, in which case, you're sort of eroding away the culture of what it means to be British. Might not be racially or skin color, but it's certainly cultural and ideological, and you can't just mix and match various countries in short order and say, now we're all the same.
Yep.
It's the same thing when you look at if you were to look at a business, right? We're very big on culture here at Valuetainment, at Diva Consulting, everything that we do. You can't just take people from the outside, assume that they're gonna, if they don't assimilate with the culture, they're a cancer to the culture. Mm-hmm. And just like the way they came in, they inject themselves out because we can't allow them to affect the minds and the ideologies of the people there because we're all assimilated and striving for one vision. When you bring people in that don't align with that, it's chaos. So similarly, how you operate a business is how you got to operate your country. If they don't assimilate and they don't fit in the culture, they can't stay in the country.
And that's a great point because Pat says, I don't fault people who don't fit into this culture. This culture isn't for everyone. Nope. This is for a select few who believe in the mission, who will do anything and sacrifice and there aren't certain people that are built that way. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily bad people. They don't fit with the culture and they get removed. Why is that? How come we can apply that same standard to business, but if you do that to a country, it's racist?
And even more than that, Taylor, that's actually a fantastic point, and I'm really glad you brought that up because it opens this fascinating comparison here. You are on the Bet David consulting side, like with sales, business consulting, and you have like a whole core team that does that. The rest of us, for the most part, are on the studio side of things. We're over here, we're doing show production, graphic design, writing, all that stuff. So there's the sales team and the studio team. We are two very different teams. We have two very different cultures. We've been allowed to cultivate our own thing of you guys come to work all dressed up because you're meeting with clients all day, you're doing phone calls, you're having very important meetings. Then we come to work in like jeans and t-shirts and have debates all day about whether the government controls the weather and that kind of thing. But it's one mission. It's one company. We're all on the same page about the things that matter. So even in the diversity of culture and opinions and different presentation styles that we might have, because we're united by one thing, we are an effective company that works well together. And it works. But if you bring in people, even if they're trained salespeople or trained studio people, if they don't fit the culture, they burn out after a couple months, and we've seen it happen dozens of times.
Well, and just so no one thinks it's like a double standard. I'm from Quebec, and I've always said, like, I don't understand people saying, like, well, the French laws, the language laws in Quebec are discriminatory. It's a French province with a French history. If you don't want to live by those laws, don't come to Quebec and then say, I want to be able to do everything in English. Don't come to America and then say we should shut down the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. If you don't like the principles, don't come. But don't come and think you get to change the country into which you came. You would come there presumably because you want to be a part of it, not because you want to bring your own country into that country.
Well, think of former Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf, who stood up there right after he got into the office and listed off every white person who was in charge of a government department. And it was the most aggressive, angry way I've ever heard someone pronounce the word white. It was like, secretary, whatever, white. Secretary of this, white.
Humza Yousaf is in Scotland, right?
Yes.
Scotland, where they say there's overrepresentation of whites in government when Scotland is, or at least was,
so
90%
this half
white?
Pakistani guy gets in there and says there's too many white people in the Scottish government.
Yeah.
Go home.
Go listen.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah, listen to that guy. And I love that you said that. And I want to move on to your story, Taylor, because I know you have to go soon. When you said running the country, like if the country's run like a business, and that's what Donald Trump, bro, ran this thing like a business. The CEO was fierce, strong, boom, 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 and then look what happens when it's not run like a good business, and all the cancers come in, and everything happens. That's what you get when you let everybody, and you're welcoming, and you don't say no to anybody, and everything's all accepting without checks and balances. This is what you get. This is what you get when you have a bad CEO running the country of America.
Well, and most importantly, when there's other countries that are still being run like businesses, they will sit there and cannibalize the weak company, the weak business. And you have countries left and right taking advantage of America under a Biden administration.
That's it. Yep.